Hi, my name is John Hostetter, and I'm here today to talk to you about my research paper proposal. And we are looking at the effects of assigned homework in early education students. Some of the things that we're going to look at today regarding the effects of assigned homework in early education students. We're going to start by answering a few of these questions. First, we need to provide a clear definition as to what homework is and where it originated. Next, we want to take a look at why is homework being assigned in the first place? What is its assigned role within the classroom? Next, we want to take a look at who is our audience and why are we asking this question in the first place? Lastly, we want to take a look at what is the group that we are going to be examining as far as conducting this research. We want to first begin by providing a clear definition as to what homework is. Harris Cooper defines homework as tasks assigned to students by school teachers that are meant to be carried out during non-school hours. Basically, homework is assigned to serve as a supplement to the day-to-day doings that students are doing within school. It's a way to help with the retention of knowledge and help to provide extra practice for students outside of what their teacher is able to do in the school day. The concept of homework itself can date all the way back to the 11th century, and since then it has become an integral part of education. Despite homework as a concept being around for such a long time, there are supporters on both sides of this argument. With those against assigning homework might be pointing to things like the fact that some states have actually forbid homework to be assigned for those outside of a high school setting or those outside of a public school setting. So for some teachers, they simply are just not allowed to assign homework. Some of the other external factors that might determine a teacher's homework policy could look at the rising cost of schooling per student, with that amount nearly tripling over the last 40 years. That paired with larger class sizes requiring more resources and in turn requiring more time by a teacher, there are many things that can point against assigning homework. There are also some that are in support of assigning homework within the classroom, simply for the fact that assigning homework allows students to take a more active role in their learning, whether that's at an elementary age, a middle school, or a high school age. They can also point to the fact that state standards are constantly changing, and as these standards increase or lessen, become more or less rigorous, assigning homework is a way to kind of reflect on that increase as it relates to the standards that are put in place by each individual state. Now that we've done an extensive literature review, we want to take a look at our purpose and research method for this proposal. Our purpose here today is to gain an insight into the current practice of elementary school teachers and students and be able to further help those teachers develop their own homework policy within the classroom. We hope to provide clear data to help them by examining the effects of homework on student performance. We want to do this by surveying current teachers to see what they are currently doing and how do they feel that's working within their classroom. Are they noticing any sort of trends or correlations within their own policies and student achievement? Our hypothesis was that homework does have an overall positive effect on student achievement. Now that we've been able to review the literature to provide a clear background on what homework is and why or why not it could get assigned in the classroom, let's take a look at what the data is saying as far as homework having an effect on student achievement. And the bottom line is that most of the data that we found provides minimal support that homework actually has an effect on student performance on assessments. There were some cases regarding math where we see a weak correlation between homework completion and student achievement on those math assessments. But as far as science, English, and history were concerned, there was minimal effect in completing homework on their assessment performance. Experts can chalk this up to being too many unknowns or independent variables that might affect each study as it relates to each subject and age group. Some of the variables that they mentioned were things like differing teaching styles as it relates to student achievement, what is being asked on each homework, and that can differ from teacher to teacher. What subject is the homework on, whether it's math, English, history, or science? What is the overall or average student ability within any classroom, and how does that relate to homework completion as well as assessment performance? The student interest in each subject can have an effect on their homework completion or assessment performance. Overall, I wanted to give a quote from Alfie Kohn that I felt nicely summed up much of my research. He stated that even when you take account for all of these variables, the bottom line remains that no definite conclusion can be reached, and that in itself is a significant conclusion. The fact that there isn't anything close to unanimity among experts belies the widespread assumption that homework helps. And I felt that that was sort of a great collective quote that really summed up much of what I found in my research and literature review. Now that we've examined what the research is saying, we want to propose our own data collection, and we're going to do that through a mixed method utilizing Google Forms to collect both qualitative and quantitative data. Some of the quantitative data that we're going to be collecting will be using a Likert scale to establish things like how much homework is being assigned, what kind of homework assignments are being given, and what percentage of students typically complete those homework assignments. We're going to be surveying a small group of teachers in an elementary building ranging from grades kindergarten through third. This will also help to provide us some key background information as to what purpose they might assign homework or what subjects they might assign homework in. We're also going to use Google Forms to collect some qualitative data by including things like short response and narrative questions. This will help to provide a background into what their unique reasoning for assigning homework might be or might not be if they choose to not assign homework. This will also provide context as to what benefits they see from their stance. Do students perform better on assessments versus those who do not complete homework? By selecting a smaller sample of only 20 teachers, we will be able to build more personal accounts that allow for a multitude of factors to be included utilizing that qualitative data. Despite our plan to collect both quantitative and qualitative data, our expected results are more than likely to line up with much of the research that we found, in that they are inconclusive at this point within the research. This might be due to a small sample size. Many of the independent variables that we mentioned before, such as homework tasks, student ability, and overall student interest, all playing a factor within our study. All of this lines up with the research and can relate to the fact that there are experts on both sides of the argument. And even with all this, when we are looking at student assessment and student performance on assessments, there's often cases where we can find inconsistent or contradicting data, in that students that complete homework may score well on an assessment, but students that complete homework could also score lower on an assessment, and those that do not complete homework could score both high or low. There are other factors that can relate into that as well, such as parental involvement, how much sleep did a student get, and many other external factors that can all affect the student performance on an assessment. But this does point us to the next direction and where we can go from here. We can begin by conducting our own first-hand research with a uniform pre- and post-test. This will help provide clear data as far as where the students began and where the students end at, and how completing or not completing homework might relate to that as far as an experimental group and a control group. And that would allow us to move beyond conducting only survey and narrative research as we did here today. Even with an experimental research approach, using a treatment group and a control group, like much of the research that we conducted upon our literature review found, we might find that this is still inconclusive, as experts have been debating this for many, many years, and it has constantly shifted between a pro and against homework stance. And studies have been replicated many times over and are still inconclusive even today. And lastly, some of the key concepts that I learned in this course that I was able to utilize in my paper, I would first begin with collecting qualitative data. In my proposal, I feel that collecting qualitative data and getting a personal account from a teacher regarding their policy, their student performance, and overall student ability allows for context to be applied within your research. When looking at student performance, there are many external factors that can affect that. So I feel that collecting qualitative data is very helpful and able to provide the background as to what those contextual factors might be. I also felt that being able to conduct survey research and narrative research was also a great tool in collecting as much data as possible through the survey research and making that very easy on my survey participants, but also giving them an opportunity, again, to provide some of that context and background through the narrative research, utilizing things like short answer or interview questions. I found that those were some of the concepts that I really connected with as it related to my research paper proposal here today. I hope you found this enlightening, and I thank you for listening.